It started on a Tuesday. A painfully ordinary Tuesday that smelled like stale coffee and fresh hypocrisy. I was in my driveway, trying to convince my golden retriever, Milo, that squirrels aren't his mortal enemies, when a golf cart screeched to a stop in front of my house. Out waddled Margaret Finley, the HOA president. A woman who clutched her clipboard like it was the Constitution and moved like she was personally powered by other people's misery. She adjusted her oversized sun visor, peered over her sunglasses, and declared, "We've received numerous complaints about excessive barking. It's disturbing the peace." I blinked. "You mean Milo?" Margaret sniffed. "If that's the name of the animal, then yes. Now, Milo barks maybe twice a day, once when the mailman comes, once when the Amazon guy forgets to wave. Meanwhile, the guy 2 houses down has a leaf blower that could start a hurricane." I laughed. "Big mistake." Her lips curled into a smirk that said, "Oh, you think this is funny? You'll receive a formal notice," she said, and drove off like a low-speed villain in a pastel crime drama. Sure enough, 2 days later a letter arrived. Notice of violation. Excessive noise from pet fine. $250. Continued violations may result in further action. I felt my blood pressure spike. Not because of the fine, but because of the audacity. So I did what any reasonable, slightly petty homeowner would do. I checked the HOA bylaws. And wouldn't you know it? There was no section defining excessive noise. "Perfect," I wrote back. "Per your bylaws, excessive is undefined. Until it's measurable, I'll consider Milo's enthusiasm constitutionally protected." I thought that'd be the end of it. Then I came home the next day to find a sound meter stuck in my flower bed, blinking red like a tattletale robot. Margaret wasn't just escalating. She was declaring war. Cue dramatic music. Margaret started patrolling my street like a mall cop on a caffeine drip. Every time Milo barked, I'd catch her scribbling on her clipboard like she was logging seismic activity. I started recording her, purely for documentation. It became my new morning routine: coffee, leash, camera, chaos. One morning, I caught her crouching behind my trash bins with her little decibel meter. I stepped outside, phone in hand. "Good morning, Margaret. Enjoying the garbage view?" She froze mid-squat. "This is official HOA business," she stammered. "You're measuring compost or conspiracy?" I asked. She stomped off, muttering something about community standards. That's when my neighbor, Dave, leaned over his fence. Dave's a retired engineer who lives for drama he's not in. "You know she filed a noise complaint about my wind chimes last year?" "What did you do?" "Hooked them to a motion sensor. Only ring when she walks by." That's when it hit me. Margaret doesn't hate noise. She hates control slipping through her fingers. And I was about to yank that control like a magician pulling a tablecloth. I started digging deeper. At the next HOA meeting, I showed up, calm, collected, wearing my best "I pay my dues and know my rights" smile. Margaret opened with the same smug authority as always. "We have ongoing concerns about property number 27B, noise violations, non-compliance." I raised my hand. "Before we continue, could we clarify what decibel level counts as a violation?" She blinked. "That's not relevant." "It's entirely relevant," I said. "Unless you're enforcing based on feelings?" You could feel the room stir, half the neighbors pretending not to smirk. Her jaw tightened. "We'll address that later," she snapped. But here's the twist. I recorded the entire meeting. And later that night, while rewatching, I heard something I hadn't caught before. Right before adjournment, Margaret whispered to another board member, "She won't push it. Not with her record." Her record? I didn't have one. But apparently she might. I became obsessed. Not in a creepy way, in a "you're messing with the wrong woman" kind of way. I started noticing things. Margaret's pristine garden, always immaculate, yet no gardener ever seen. Her new Lexus, paid off in cash, though her husband's consulting business was apparently seasonal. And every HOA budget report I could access online was mysteriously missing line 37, discretionary maintenance fund. That fund was supposed to cover neighborhood improvements. But according to the books, nothing had been spent for 2 years. Yet the fees had increased. I wasn't just in a noise dispute anymore. I was staring at the tip of an iceberg made of petty corruption and overpriced mulch. So I called an emergency HOA inspection meeting, under my rights as a homeowner. Margaret tried to block it. I quoted the bylaws. She tried to intimidate me. I brought a neighbor, who was an ex-law clerk. She tried to smile. I smiled wider. During the meeting, I played the recording where she mentioned her record. The room went silent. Margaret, what record were you referring to? I asked sweetly. She fumbled. I was speaking hypothetically. Interesting. Because hypothetical people don't usually hide financial reports. You could practically hear the popcorn popping in everyone's minds. Even the usually quiet treasurer looked nervous. We'll have to verify those numbers, he stammered. Margaret ended the meeting early, but I wasn't done. I filed a public records request for HOA financials, and while waiting, I kept the petty energy alive. Every time Milo barked, I said, loud enough for her porch camera to hear, "That's the sound of transparency, boy." And then, on a rainy Friday afternoon, the documents arrived. The numbers didn't lie, but they sure screamed. Over $14,000 from the maintenance fund had been reallocated for administrative travel expenses. Except the HOA doesn't travel. I cross-referenced the dates with Margaret's Facebook posts because, of course, she overshares everything. She'd been on 3 leadership retreats in Hawaii on HOA money. I wanted to burst into laughter and flames at the same time. This woman fined me for my dog barking while she was sipping piña coladas on our dime. I sent copies of everything to the rest of the board, and within 24 hours, 2 members resigned. Margaret called me that night. Her voice was shaky but venomous. "You don't understand what you're doing." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I said. "You should have picked a quieter dog to mess with." The next morning, she tried to host an emergency HOA meeting, except I beat her to it. I posted a full breakdown of the budget, with screenshots, on the neighborhood Facebook page. It spread like wildfire. Comments flooded in. "Wait, is that where our landscaping money went? So, that's why the pool heater's been broken for months. $14,000. That's a lot of mulch." Margaret showed up at my door, face blotchy, voice cracking. "You're ruining my reputation." "No," I said. "You did that when you called my dog a nuisance." Then came the kicker. One of the neighbors was a local reporter. She'd seen my post. She wanted the story. The news article hit a week later. HOA president misuses funds for luxury travel. Whistleblower dog owner speaks out. They used a photo of me and Milo sitting proudly on the porch. He's mid-bark. I'm mid-smirk. Perfect symmetry. Margaret tried to deny everything at first, then claimed it was a misunderstanding. But by the next HOA election, she was voted out faster than you can say bylaws. Her Lexus disappeared. Her garden wilted. Rumor was she had to repay the entire amount. At the final meeting before her removal, she couldn't even look at me. "Any last words?" I asked. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I already don't," I smiled. Milo sleeps better now that the neighborhood's quiet. The room laughed. It wasn't cruel laughter, more like collective relief. The HOA had been ruled by fear for years. Now it finally felt human again. Afterward, Dave came by with a 6-pack and said, "You realize you just took down the most powerful woman in a 5-mile radius with a barking dog and Wi-Fi?" "I prefer to call it emotional restitution," I said. Milo barked right on cue. We both laughed. And for the first time since moving here, I didn't hear the hum of Margaret's golf cart. Just the sweet, satisfying sound of peace. Sometimes the loudest noise in the neighborhood isn't your dog. It's the sound of someone's lies unraveling.